Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 602 on Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2024. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew, and this week we'll be finding out how VW is thinking about the unthinkable. In new car news, we adjust our woggles and check how prepared we are. And in points of interest, we go all gooey-eyed over a soldering machine. But first, we do have two bits of follow-up, and I will start with the first one, which is Volkswagen. And it has been leaked, come out, announced, so a combination of all those, of some of the things they are exploring when it comes to saving the $4 billion they say they need to save. Some of this includes 10% wage cuts, 2-year wage freeze, closing up to 3 factories in Germany, capping bonuses, reducing additional payments for employee anniversaries. However, the unions are less than impressed, I think we can safely say, also stating that they do not have faith in the VW management because they have not presented a clear future strategy. It is reported in this Reuters article linked in the show notes. This was never going to be a nice thing. It was always going to get quite ugly, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And there's always the moderately high probability, I suppose, that this is Volkswagen coming around and going and starting off with the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Working on the basis that then the unions can negotiate back to what Volkswagen actually want and claim a victory because it's better than what was originally put out there. Obviously, can't be sure of that.
We'll find out if strikes happen, because if strikes happen, then they have demanded, the 3 factories shut, all these other things, and they have actually started with what they think they need to do from the outset rather than... Because the problem is with so many negotiations and people who think they can negotiate is they always do the high ball, low ball thing and all the rest of it, which is just bartering basically and silly.
It is, yeah. It's fine down the circuit in Casablanca, but it's...
Yeah, this is people's livelihoods here.
Absolutely.
Anyway, do you want to take us to the East Midlands?
Yes. Similar, I mean, it's following on from last week's Bleegan Manufacturer show. JLR, still facing supply issues a year after the apologies for the supply issues. There is still a massive repair backlog, and parts availability still isn't there. Last year, the CEO, Adrian Mardell, said the firm was really unhappy about problems at its then new global parts logistics centre in Leicestershire. And at the time, about 10,000 cars were off the road awaiting parts due to delays at the distribution.
But that was compounded, though. To be fair to them, it was compounded because there was, if we remember, there was really bad flooding in Eastern Europe, which affected their aluminium supplier because they were completely flooded out.
This is true.
They did find a new supplier for that, so they have dealt with that, and that's what you would expect them to do. So it is not completely... We would not be correct in pointing the finger at JLR and saying, look what you've done, this is all your fault.
No, that's true.
There are some extenuating circumstances. However...
the thing is that they don't have enough demand to dual supply. So as a result, you end up caught where your single supplier has an issue, then, single point of failure, and it all gets knocked down the line.
But that's basic purchasing 101 of never to do that, no matter how small or large it is. You must have a backup. And it feels like, looking from the outside...
We saw that with one of the electric truck companies.
Yes, absolutely. But it looks like from the outside here, that has not been the case. One of the interesting stats that is in this Autocar article is how that JLR have now provided 90% of clients with JLR vehicles whilst their car is off-road to be repaired. That's up from 65% this time last year.
And it's increased its customer service agents by 25% to, I don't know. Well, it says give greater support. I mean, book more hire cars.
Yeah, it's just more people to answer the phone.
Yeah. We did have a little bit of a discussion as to whether or not that this maybe had a small impact on the new vehicle registration figures as well, so that they were getting a bigger fleet.
Yes.
Anyway, new news.
Yeah, new news. And One that I had not seen anything about beforehand, but the Radford Motors, if we remember, was co-founded by Jensen Button and Anstead and Dan Bernardsky. They created this company that was going to sort of create retro-inspired Lotus Type 62 vehicles, which we've seen, which all look gorgeous, but they've had to file for bankruptcy in the US. Now, remember, in the US, that's a different thing than typically the UK. This is actually to restructure their debt and is not them saying we're completely out of business. So it's a Chapter 11 business restructure is the official term. But on top of that, and this is something I hadn't heard anything about, but there are claims that there are 2 legal proceedings going on against Bernardsky and Anstead. One saying that they owe $2 million to a business partner, and one is from a co-owner who said that those two took some of the funds from a $100,000 deposit to pay for expenses not relating to the customer's order. That's quite messy. I hope it gets fixed. The company side of things, what happens with the individuals is different. I'm not commenting on that. But I hope the company gets fixed because I really like the car and I really like the idea. And I'm sure they should be able to find enough really, really wealthy people who want something pretty unique.
Yeah. Founding a car company is like the next level on from buying a yacht, as far as other ways to get rid of money rather than just setting fire to it. It really is one of those situations. It's just the amount of cash that seems to burn through is just incredible.
Yes, it's a lot more than people are expecting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to take us to China? Well, maybe the gates of China.
Not if I'm a Volkswagen executive. A chap called Jochen Sengfell, who's the China Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Product Strategy for Volkswagen in China, obviously, was deported back to Germany after being detained in China for about 10 days. According to Reuters via the Financial Times, he had allegedly tested positive for drugs after a holiday abroad, and that the company is reviewing the matter internally. German Foreign Office confirmed also that its embassy in Beijing had provided consular assistance to the individual and his family. It says Volkswagen and Germany's Federal Foreign Office did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for a comment outside regular business hours, so they're being incredibly fair and reasonable about that. The question really is, was it real? Is this some kind of message from the Chinese government to the EU over some of the taxation and extra duty fines that were discussed over the last few weeks? Is it Volkswagen specific? Is it because he actually took drugs on holiday? Let's not be unfair here. This sounds like it could be a messy one which might drag on a little bit, but fall under a lot of people's radars. So just worth flagging.
Absolutely. I am going to take us to Rivian now. And Rivian and Bosch, the parts supplier, are taking each other to court. One has sued and the other has countersued immediately. Rivian has cancelled their contract with Bosch to supply electric drives for their pickup and SUV. And Bosch said that you've broken your contract by doing that. We're taking you to court. Rivian then countersued and said, no, you are useless. You didn't give us the drives we needed. This is absolutely ridiculous. So we'll sue you and the court can decide how much you will then owe. Bosch is seeking $204 million of reimbursements against revenues that they will lose. Bosch are saying that the problem with their supply of drivetrains was down to the semiconductor chip crisis, and it was not down to lack of drivetrains, so you can't say that that was the case.
In the Electrive article, it says that in Rivian's counter lawsuit, the former Rivian Director of Procurement, Patrick Herman, describes Bosch's failure to deliver motors as the number one threat to our organization's success.
CJLR article that we just discussed about putting all one's eggs in one basket.
Yes, exactly. And when you're a startup, it's much trickier.
Yeah. But Bosch, when they countered, they said, when they put their case down, they also said that Rivian had been secretly working on their own drivetrain and were always going to cut them out, breaking the contract. That was part of their deal. Now, I wonder whether Rivian sold themselves to Volkswagen with, and by the way, we've got our own drivetrain.
Just got technology that works. Look, we've got a user interface. We'll talk about that soon, I'm sure.
Yes. Do you want to take us on to batteries for PHEVs?
Yes, this one's confused Andrew and I a bit, and there's got to be something we're missing in this, because battery manufacturer CATL, we've mentioned them a few times, certainly over the last few months, they have unveiled a new battery that can give plug-in hybrids 249 miles of electric range. According to the Autocar, they say the advanced pack will be launched next year and give hybrid owners a BEV-like experience. If this is a plug-in hybrid, and this battery pack gives you 250 miles of range, whilst increasing charging capacity and cold weather efficiency and all the other things compared to existing battery packs, why is it not in EVs?
Imagine that in a city car or small car, 250-mile range, which even if it comes down to 200 miles, the lightness of the vehicle, the packaging you could play with, because that battery for a PHEV is much smaller than the battery for an EV.
Yeah,
and we've got to be missing. We've got to be missing something, unless this is a case of magic beans.
I think there must be some kind of manufacturing constraint. But even then, why not just put the same flipping battery pack into an EV?
That's what I'm thinking. You just slot that 250-mile one, particularly into something the size of a
Corsa,
the Insta, or not even the Corsa, but you go down a size, the Picanto or something like that. Imagine that in the Picanto, 250 miles.
It's probably going to be far too expensive if you do that. It's a sodium-lithium battery, which supposedly balances its energy density, but I don't know. This one, there just seem like unanswered questions.
Because it's a massive jump on the best that's available, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like 3 times the range. So this saying the best PHEV with the best electric-only range is meant to be the Polestar 1, which can offer 93 miles via the European WLTP standard. It's talking about a battery that gives 3 times the range of what's currently thought to be the best. But CATL are not a little startup. They don't need, they are a proper battery manufacturer who supply plenty of big manufacturers. It seems just like I don't know, it just seems a bit strange. They don't need to show off something new and crazy. They can keep on making what they're making and improving what they're making as they go along. But it just seems like a very strange, look, here's something that's completely different from the side, but it's only for PHEVs.
Yeah, it's almost too good to be true.
Maybe I've missed a big thing.
Yeah, and this is why we're curious.
Yeah, we must have missed something, mate.
And the other problem we've got is that both you and I are very cynical now to marketing and hype.
Are we?
And how so many companies have chosen, through the way that just business is today, they have to hype things. Well,
it's because everything's about shareholder value and growth of the stock, which is just rotten. It's just terrible for everyone.
People are coming out to the verge of lying. Other companies. I'm not saying this is in any way, but this is why I'm explaining about how our cynicism. The people are coming out and lying. There are electric vehicle makers that openly lie on stage, and what they say will happen and what happens is 2 different things, and yet you can see the impact on the share price. This is a tactic for a business, and we shouldn't necessarily be reporting it as fact, but we have been. Mm-hmm. We need to understand the tech a bit more and be able to dampen down and put some questions in an article.
There is one line here, actually, which might help. And it points out in the, again, Autocar article, linked in the show notes, as all our source articles are. It says, this claimed figure is thought to have been calculated by the favourable China light-duty vehicle test cycle.
It's not 3 times the extent, though, favourable.
No, I would hope not. Not unless it's really off.
Well, even if you're 200 miles, even if you are 200 miles, that's still astonishing.
Yeah.
If anyone knows, do tell us, please.
Yeah, please tell us. Sorry, that was the other thing I meant to say. For goodness sakes, if it's really something that we're missing here, you're smart cookies. Let us know, please. Yeah. Just so that we can put it to bed and not worry about it. Add it to our little list of things to worry about. Andrew, meanwhile, in other it's coming next year or the year after or maybe the year after that, battery news.
Yes, solid state. And Stellantis missed our episode where we brought everyone up to date on who was allegedly doing what with solid state. And they have now announced that they will be road testing solid state batteries in 2 years' time, so in 2026. They will be fitting them to a fleet of Dodge Charger Daytonas from the American startup Factorial. They have invested heavily in Factorial, I believe. Someone on social media made me aware of. And they think that they will have this to the point where they can actually drive them on the roads, and it is then you're testing before it becomes real. Do click the link on in the show notes if you are interested in solid state, because it does round up again all the other companies who've said they are solid stating and the time scales that they claim they will be doing it. But also, interestingly, there is a bit at the bottom where Mercedes say, nah, not sure that that's the wonderful savior for the electric car that we've been told it is, because the unexpected, and I'm quoting a quote in this article,
yes,
progress with lithium-ion cells from Mercedes-Benz's technology chief, Markus Schäfer.
Yeah, Mercedes notably doing well in the EV world. Or
yes.
not, maybe.
As all German EV makers seem to be.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Alan, do you want to round out the first part with some good news?
Yes, this one's kind of weird and unexpected. Hyundai and Toyota have decided to club together and hold their own motorsport festival in Korea.
Does anyone want to pay for us to go?
The Hyundai N by Toyota Gazoo Racing Festival. It should be right up our street, to be perfectly honest. It's going to take place at the Everland Speedway in South Korea and later this month. There'll be demonstrations of racing models. There'll be track driving sessions as well. It's really interesting that it's two certainly rivals on the, not so much on the racetrack yet, but definitely in World Rally. So they're going to showcase their cars from WRC at the moment and Rally 2, and Toyota are going to show off its various cars from WRC, Rally 2, GRs 86s, and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of cool. South Korea is not a big market for Japanese cars, so it is kind of curious that they're getting together to do it.
Is that a cultural thing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't want to go into more, but just check.
I think it's a historic thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to see them coming together and doing it, and it raises awareness of the race series as well.
Yeah, 100%. I like that a lot.
Yes, me too. Yeah, and that brings us to Guilt Minute, which is kind of ties in nicely with the motorsport theme, because I'm just going to remind you again that Alex Robbins at Scroff on social media is still walking his way from Wantage in Oxfordshire to Anglesey Circuit in time for the Race of Remembrance. It's 250 miles-ish all in. He is well on his way.
He's just past halfway, I think.
Think so, yeah. Just past halfway. He has also just passed the initial target that he hoped to reach.
Oh, well done, everyone.
But please, if you were thinking about donating, then there will be a link, once again, in the show notes, giving a chance to donate on his Just Giving page and giving a full explanation of what he's doing, raising money for Mission Motorsport.
Yep.
That brings us to new car news. Andrew, new Volkswagens.
Yes, new Volkswagens called Scout. And the US only. Scout Motors. You may not remember, but Volkswagen decided a couple of years ago that they were going to bring back the Scout name to the US.
How Volkswagen ended up with it, I don't know, because it was originally owned by International Harvester.
Can't remember. I cannot
Because it was
remember.
an International Scout. The Scout was actually originally the model name, not the manufacturer name.
Anyway, what they have essentially revealed in the last week is some Rivians, to my eyes. They've revealed an electric pickup, and they've revealed an SUV that looks very much like the ones Rivians have shown off. Oh dear! I mean, I struggle to get excited about this, I have to say, because I'm not in the US. It would be different, I am sure, if I was in the US.
You see, whereas I find this far more interesting than Andrew does. remember that Volkswagen has invested in Rivian. I think we brought that one up at least once already this show, and invested quite heavily in Rivian. But they've done that since announcing they would be bringing back Scout.
Mm-hmm.
These are they're going to be built in the US, basically everything based in the US, but they're not being built by Rivian or anything like that. They're being built in a new manufacturing plant, etc., etc. But quite a lot of it seems it's quite a bit of the tech underneath, and the driveline technology is shared. But as opposed to Rivian's many, many motors, air suspension, all of that kind of stuff that's built into the Rivians are far more complex vehicles. They're more expensive. Certainly the R1S and the R1T are anyway. The Scout is a bit simpler in its execution in most ways. And the other thing is they're looking at it and they're going to try and get rid of the whole dealer network and make everything owned and run by Scout right the way through. There's a really interesting Autopian article all about that kind of back stuff, supply chain, servicing, and the fact that they've tried to figure all of that stuff out well in advance. It's not just something the whole supply chain thing isn't just something that's been tacked on at the end.
Mm.
The vehicles themselves are, as I say, relatively simple, but they look good. The interior's nice. There seem to be some fun fit and finish challenges with some of the dashboard buttons, which have been highlighted on social media.
Challenges, you'll be never so kind.
I am. The thing that's really noticeable in this, though, is that they are available with a built-in generator. There's up to 350 miles of electric range in the first place. You can get a petrol range extender that will enable them to go 500 miles between stops if you need, want, or desire. And that range extender can also act as a generator and all sorts of fun things when you're out in the countryside, doing countryside things, lifestyle, wearing Carhartt and, I don't know, fending off bears and things. The truck is called the Terra. The SUV is called the Traveller. And it seems that the whole presentation, showy-offy thing that went on seemed to win over a lot of people. It seems it went down incredibly well. The things look good.
Yeah, they look fine. They look fine. Yeah.
In a sort of Ford Bronco way, much like the original Scout did.
They've just made Rivians. I mean, because you talked about the price, and when it was originally announced in last year, they were expecting the SUV to start around $40,000, according to this Digital Trends article. They now expect them to retail and the pickup for around $60,000, which is,
that's
I know,
reasonable.
Inflation. Wow. Well, okay.
Also, let's go into a little bit of a US car price discussion, as I tend to have to do that. Okay? When they give that price, because they don't have dealers who are going to add extra bonus markup on, that's the price. It's popular, so here's an extra $10,000 on top because people really want this.
Supply and demand, surge pricing, etc.
That is what dealers do here, and that is one of the things. And it's not advertised anywhere, and you never find the full price until you're trying to sign on the dotted line, and it's just a horrible, horrible experience. Mm. It also means there will be some states in which they can't sell them.
Yep.
Because you're not allowed to, because the dealers have such, they are such big political donors, so that they get their way. That has traditionally been the way for a long, long time. That is not new news. It's all politics in there.
Yeah.
And so good luck to Volkswagen and Scout for forging their way through that. Interesting article from Inside EVs. Follow-up article all about the non-dealer side from the Autopian there in the show notes.
Yep.
Definitely have a click, have a read. It is an interesting concept, even if it's not coming to the UK or anywhere outside North America, and Andrew is grumpy and cynical about it. It is an interesting concept over here. I like Rivians. They're friendly. That's the thing about them, is that they are absolutely, it's a pickup truck, but it's completely non-aggressive. I mean, I know it's stealing all your data and feeding that back to the mothership because America.
Well, Scout specifically say they will not sell your data on.
They did, didn't they? Yeah, that's very true. They did say that, the customer is not our product, I think was the line. We don't want the customer to become the product, something like that, about not selling the data on. that kind of signal is promising.
Yes. I hope they follow through on that. Anyway, why don't you take us back to Blighty?
The Morgan Plus 6 is coming to the end of its production period. A new flagship will take over in 2025. It is bowing out with the Pinnacle Limited Edition. There's only 30 of them are going to hit the road, each of them priced from £96,995.
Yeah, I think this is the full personalisation will be offered on this.
Yes, it's bespoke as standard is what they're saying here.
Yes.
Bespoke as long as it fits within the categories. So there's 3 interior colour options, tan, brown and blue leather, with sheepskin carpets to complement. You can pick one of those to work with any number of exterior finishes. It'll also get its own special stitch pattern with the Pinnacle logo incorporated into the seats, and the logo will also be on the teak veneer center column as an aluminium inlay, which looks really classy, actually. I want to make fun of it, but it does look good.
Yep, it does.
Standard mechanically, 335 brake horsepower BMW source turbocharged straight 6 with the 8-speed automatic transmission. Plus 6 got chassis updates for the 2023 year. That includes new dampers, AP racing brakes, and electronics. All super cool. Nobody's really sure what's coming next, but it should be interesting.
Yep. Well, I mean, the recent designs have been very, very good, as we were commenting last week when we were talking about the changes at the head of the company. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do.
Yeah, me too. Love to see that. Andrew, points of interest. I think you're starting off this time.
Yes, it's the lunchtime watch this week. And for anyone who hadn't noticed, but Bad Obsession Motorsport have brought out another Project Binky episode. It's episode 39.
I love you say another as if the last one was just last week. For the first time in well over a year, Bad Obsession Motorsport actually released an episode.
Yes, and it is wonderful. It is really in depth. It is quite long. 57 minutes, 45 seconds, actually, from start to finish. And I've never wanted effectively a printed soldering machine previously, but now I do. Just a spoiler alert, by the way. You'll understand what that means if you've not seen the video when you watch it. But my word.
Believe it or not, flicking through the YouTube comments, and it goes, there's someone here, 802 Garage, saying, so we didn't get an episode for 1.5 years because you were becoming electronics engineers and developing a solder 3D printer. Fair play. It is it's as crazy as the rest of it, really, and as impressive as the rest of it too. So
I think it shows what happens when you have a touch of madness and you start down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I did ask Rich about I did call him out slightly on social media and say, well, look, it took like 5 minutes to go, yeah, so we had this idea, we spoke to some experts, we developed a machine to do what we thought we could do, and we did it. And then you just moved on. And there will be more details of how he did it, videos to accompany that and to give a bit more detail on some of the stuff they made in order to make this possible. So I'm really looking forward to those as well.
Yep. But it's great to have another video back from them.
But you can see why it took so long. But it's also nice because it's almost the entire story of this part of the car.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they'd split it halfway through and then you'd have gone, what? And then if we waited another 9 months.
So they've had to do the episode again to remind.
Remind us what was happening. You just go, well, so they made these bits. Whereas you need the whole thing to understand just what all went into getting to where they've got to. Whew.
So interconnected.
Video's hard, and then they just make it worse.
Yes.
Never joke to Nick about making brackets for fun, though. He doesn't find those jokes particularly amusing.
I didn't make that when I met him. I didn't do that.
I did. List of the week this week falls to me, and it is the best cars from dead car companies. It's from Autocar. there are many. I think most things have 2 slides. There's still 20 odd, but split over 2 slides per vehicle. Andrew, what have you chosen from this list?
Well, I've gone through the list and I thought to myself, look, don't be cliched. Don't pick the obvious. So I've picked Saab. I couldn't help myself though. Saab is one of those car companies out there that I'm really sad to see go. I understand why it has gone, but the fact that they did what they did for as long as they did is brilliant, and that they really extracted the finances from the likes of GM for as long as they did and over-engineered their cars to the extent they did is a whole documentary on its own.
So, Andrew, just to remind the good people at home, what have you mostly driven for the last 7 years?
Yes, a Saab that we now need to move on, actually. Yes, I'm biased.
You are biased. It's fine. I chose a Toyota Yaris one recently, so this is an allowable thing.
How about you? Because there's 54 slides. Oh, by the way, that was slide 43 for those playing along at home. I did go through quite a lot before I got to that.
Yeah, that's because it's in alphabetical order. I wasn't nearly as patient. I got to slide 17. And I have chosen the Eagle Talon, which has a wonderful name and is mostly a Mitsubishi. To be honest, it's mostly a Mitsubishi Eclipse of that generation. You could get it in all-wheel drive, turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, putting out almost 200 horsepower. They actually look quite good when you see them on the road now, but they were sort of mostly kind of forgettable and not very well marketed in the way that, Chrysler and stuff did. But yeah, they're kind of cool. You still, as I say, you still sometimes see them around, and it's like, ooh, look.
Yeah.
By up here, they've not necessarily got a lot of the sills left.
Yeah. But do click the Autocar link in the show notes, because there is a ton of car companies for you to go through, and I am sure there will be something for everyone.
And it's not the obviouses.
Yeah.
Not just the obviouses. There are some obviouses, but
absolutely,
you've got to have those too. And finally this week, falls to you, Andrew.
It does. And this is talking about how it is the 50th anniversary edition of Richard Scarry's Cars and Trucks and Things That Go book. And there is a link to a quick review and discussion of it, but inside that is a link to the Yale review, which is effectively another lunchtime read for you. So you get a bonus lunchtime read.
It's an absolute monster. I didn't realize it was quite such a monster, but it's a lovely thing, all about a seminal book for some of us. Cars and Trucks and Things That Go, there is a pretty clear thread between receiving that as a very small child. And my copy I have a hardback copy, which is still mostly hardback, but the spine is shredded and all these. Just worn out through use as a kid. And to be honest, the direct line between that and sitting here reading out an article talking about the 50th anniversary of Richard Scarry's Cars and Trucks and Things That Go.
I think that works for both of us.
Useless fact, Richard Scarry was born in Dorchester in Boston, and that is just across the river from me right at the minute. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I always like the little farms. So you've got the little red barn and the little grain silo and the little house.
Yeah.
And it is one of the things which is really lovely in some of the countryside on the eastern side of the US, sort of pottering through Kentucky and places, and there's lots of what I think of as little Richard Scarry farms dotted around. No lowly worm in his apple car going past or golden bug or any of these, but definitely the farms are very much real.
Yeah.
Parish notes. I hope you enjoyed the Porsche Special Edition last Friday. I enjoyed recording. It was kind of fun to listen to it back again, to be perfectly honest. That was a fine day out. Hopefully you found that interesting too. The feedback's been pretty good generally, so thank you so much. I say generally, I've not had any bad feedback. And this week there will be another special edition, all prepped or ready to go. Doesn't involve Porsches.
No.
Mostly involves Andrew.
Yes. But don't let it put you off.
Yes, I wasn't trying to unsell the idea. I know, it did sound like it, didn't it? Oh dear. Never mind.
Well, I think we better end the show on that high praising note.
sit there and be abusive of my co-host. That is it for this week. So don't forget, for this show anyway, don't forget now and next time you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon. Please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search on Blue Sky or Mastodon for Cracked Windscreen, you will find my account there. And also, if you are on LinkedIn, I am there under my actual proper name. Alan, if people wish to discuss with you perhaps more about Richard Scarey Farms in the east coast of the US, what's the best way for them to do that personally?
Best way generally is Blue Sky these days, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's Bradley. We'll be back pretty soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.